And so we continue. We had to have a conversation with the channel outside while he was smoking, because he was of great concern that the lesson was going over an hour. And we said, if there's a part two, which is also an hour, which makes it a separate post, does it really matter? And so we continue. Before we go on to your next concern, we want to bring to you a grand truth. And this is understanding and undoing manifestations that was created. And in this, everyone could take a page to learn from, because it is how you perceive your issues. We brought up to you that you are no longer under the influence of your father. We brought up to you that he took the energy to make sure he came back to say, forget about that. I feel bad about that. And that I'm proud of you. You are outside of your mother's influence. And yet, it still exists. If the cause of that was your parents, again we point out the logic. Since you have worked out those influences and even had one half apologize, then shouldn't that have automatically been resolved if that was their fault?
Well, it can't be if I'm still holding on to it. And what you said was very, it hurt, but, I liked it. It was very empowering because it gave me power in taking it from it being an outside influence to no, it's mine. I'm the one who can just let go.
And this is what we bring to your attention for full realization. If your parents, being removed from a situation who was the at-fault people, then what does that mean about that bundle of perceptions that's tainting your life? Who created that?
I did.
Do you say that logically or do you say that knowingly? Whose perceptions are those?
They're mine because empirically it's never brought up by my mother. It's never brought up by my siblings. It's sometimes when I talk to my siblings about it, they seem kind of surprised, as like, oh, really? It's all, I'm holding on to it. And it helps me make, it's what's given me continuity in a weird way from childhood through now. It's like that thread that kind of holds it all together in my mind.
Correct. And understand the power of importance of manifestation and perceptions. In the physical world, it would be said, and much time we would also add, spent on the fact of a parent shouldn't talk that way to a child. A parent is responsible for teaching them those behaviors. The parent set the environment up for that to occur, and that is why the child suffers. And here you are as the adult, and does any of that matter? And our point to you is that it doesn't matter whether it is a child, someone in their midlife, or someone towards the end of their life, or someone in between before choosing a new body of expression to come back in. It is always the same moment. It is always the same moment. and the perceptions you trip over and deal with is only your own. If physical circumstance was actually valid, then, as the expression goes, how do the angels not fall from the skies
I don't
from
get
those
that.
circumstances?
Oh, what does that mean?
We channel through the body to you. If these physical circumstances was real, and we are aware, we have said, other physical circumstances, how are we not tainted by them? Because understand, in the mind, it makes excuses for them to be there. If my parent was not so harsh, I would have had confidence.
Mm-hmm. The victimhood, is that what the whole victimhood? Oh, poor me.
And even in that is a description of an excuse, a classification that does not need to exist. We stick our hand in a pile of poo and then sit there and philosophize about it. Well, if the animal had not done this pile of poo, our hand would not be in it. Well, if everyone was around, we'd be able to take it out and wash it. But we're hoping no one notices, so we don't want to move from embarrassment. Excuses and reasons for excuses. In the meantime, our hand is still in a pile of poo.
You can say shit.
We will not. So what does it matter? What does it matter? What does it matter for the reasons of that being there? What does it matter who said what? What does it matter what you believed for its validity? What does it matter? It matters because you keep it there. The mental constructs to give it validity, to make it solid, and understand how the ego works. It gives it a structure in your life to make it make sense, to help you cope. Because while the pain may still be there, understanding the environment I grew up in as a child gives me something to hang on to while I'm burning from the experience. It doesn't make sense of the pain. It makes sense for the pain to be there.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, it's victimization. Oh, I am a victim. Oh, I'm healing from this and just realizing it. Oh, it's so subtle. There's so many layers to this onion. All of this is an excuse not to address the actual pain. Feel it, embrace it, accept it, experience it. Don't run from it. And don't give it physical window dressings of validity to be present. It is like making an excuse for drunk Uncle Bob to show up every Thanksgiving to the family meal. And everyone knows he's going to ruin it. Everyone knows he's going to come drunk. and everyone accepts through distaste and disapproval that he's going to do this. Window dressings. You grow to the point that because you think it's family, that there's no way around the issue. And so you set a place for your pain every year to dine with you. Deal with the pain. Feel it, be it, channel it, accept it, hear what it has to say. If it has not killed you thus far, do you really think going to its center is going to hurt you?
Yeah.
The ego would have you convinced otherwise, which is why it sets up the constructs to try to block it and lessen it.
Not allowing me to relax and release into it and just experience it balls to bone.
Correct. Because after you do, what else could it possibly show you? And in that moment, you get to define yourself. But as long as you allow the mind to set up all of these dams, if you will, levees, to manage the flow, to give excuse, you are constantly setting a place at the table for drunk Uncle Bob every year, and then complaining about it, and then spending money on therapy about it, and then talking about it, and then complaining about it. And in that one, we're not too far off the mark, are we?
Oh, no, not at all. That one you didn't dress up too much.
Cut it all down. Be ruthless.
Yeah, I'm doing it right now. It's
Good.
it's crazy realizing how much I find myself behaving in self-sabotaging ways to continuously not be productive and organized, and then ruminating as to why I'm not productive and organized. It's like the behavior keeps playing out, and I try to throw more stuff on top of it so that I come off more productive and accomplished, only to realize I'm not good enough with what I'm doing to cover it up. It's an insane cycle. It's pure insanity.
All of it is the game. Every single bit of it. But what you are not doing is being. But it's impossible to be with that whip at your back. It is the master you constantly serve. The master you know that's on your back, and that its whip could be felt at any moment.
Mm-hmm.
And we point out to you, with all of the grandness God has given you and the possibilities, that's what you choose?
It just hit me. Maybe I'm reading too much into it and not calling out any names, but is there a reason why I'm paired up with this new coworker that I'm kind of mentoring, and I've noticed a lot of things that overcome this coworker have and still overcome me, but it's easier to see it in them.
Isn't it annoying when someone comes along modulating at a frequency that we hold, that takes our attention off of us and puts it on them? Oh God, just stop that. Because it distracts you from the game you're playing. And so in this, the blessing is twofold.
Wow.
They get to learn from you, and you get to extend help from them. And the resentment that you feel is that because you can't have those two same things in the same space, only one can play the role. And so it disrupts your game. Because you can't possibly be the victim while there's another victim present.
It just becomes a out-victiming each other.
And so the game becomes noticeable. And so the irritation comes into play. Becoming short becomes natural.
Mm-hmm.
And as our son would say, when him and his sister would fight, from his sister picking on him, until he finally became enraged and fought back, Mom would come in and say, I warned you. He was going to fight back, and then close the door.
I love that story.
It's a powerful point. And so the two of you in a cubicle that's not really a cubicle, but yet somehow physically is. And we close the door. On to your next question.
Whew. First off, thank you so much. Thank you. It's all of this is so obvious, and I think the painful part is feeling called out for it, because I'm so good at trying to hide everything and close it off. It's a fun part of me, but that's been more and more noticeable.
Question for you. Is it that you were hiding it from us, or you were hiding it from you?
All of the above. Yeah. It's funny because even coming to these, I'm like, oh, I hope they don't know this, or I hope they don't say anything about this. And part of me really hopes that and really tries to ruminate on that. And then a part of me is like, there's no hiding it. Like, what's wrong with you? But it's insane how there's a part of me that tries so hard to hide things from you and you and you.
That is a common theme. There are many channels on this planet working simultaneously at this moment. The doorways to the greater truths have not been closed. There have always been words for people that channel. Some call them prophets, some call them leaders. There have been other names, but they've always been present. And the most common theme is that when people come into contact with that, they spend so much energy attempting to hide what's obviously clear, that they don't take full advantage of the energy before them.
Mm-hmm. And just the last point on this, I find it, especially with David, when I open up or reveal things I've been hiding, it enhances the relationship, and it enhances me. And it's interesting that it's I don't even think about needing to hide certain things anymore. It's the hiding, the keeping it secret that puts so much value in my mind to it. Once it's out there, it's like, oh, I didn't even know that was an issue.
In this, you two are very blessed and lucky. And we use that expression considering the norm of the experience within the group mind. Because very often, in a relationship, when one person changes and becomes something more, there's often a physical price that must go along with it, which is that the relationship ends.
I'm very, very blessed, and I know the amazingness that we both have.
Good.
Yeah.
Your next question.
So, less about me or directly about me. I want to know, and it's been bothering me for a while, and this is going to be very open, and it's going to go on for multiple sessions, I think. But why take on a body? And why not only take on the body, but forget all these truths?
An excellent question.
Because I feel like if we understand that enough, it's going to help liberate so much shit. Because it seems like life is a game.
So the first thing we will point out is the perception in which that question was given, which is from the limited self that sits before us. Why did I forget? You did not forget. You still know. It's not something you learn, it's something you remember. Our point in setting that foundation for you is understanding is that you still see yourself as the limited self that sits before us. And everything else is, comma, other. And as we've been teaching and expressing, that is only a part of you. Just a part. Like looking through a particular peephole. What you see certainly is limited. But that does not describe the luminous being that is crouched over looking through the keyhole. And while through the vision of the keyhole, it may seem like what you see is limited and separate, when you take your eye away from the peephole, the world expands back to a much grander place. This does not mean that Monsieur Dragonsbane Mejir will cease to exist when what you muse as the higher self takes its eye away from the peephole. You exist. You perceive. In order to create that peephole, you take a portion of yourself and blow life into it.
So
we create like what created us.
Let me finish this real quick. So it seems like the world en masse is fixated on our own individual peepholes. When we talk about ego, do we mean that's what's keeping us focused on the peephole?
No. That's what's keeping you from peeking back.
Yeah, I don't get that.
Does a peephole, keyhole, not go both ways?
Uh-huh.
So what is peering through it? Couldn't you turn around and peer back?
But that means you're projecting in the keyhole, that you are in the keyhole. You're on the other side of the keyhole. I hate this analogy.
And this goes back to our instruction on duality. And who is the perceiver? We will bring a concept out of the book to explain it. There is the seesaw. One side tilts up, the other side tilts down. One can't be up without the other side being down. Duality. Are you with us so far?
Yes.
Okay, good. Now, the focus and the obsession has been on trying to get it to balance, trying to perceive it from one side up or one side down, or in the middle, or this, or slightly this way, or slightly that way, always back and forth with the duality of variety. But in the center of that seesaw is the fulcrum that it rests upon, which is the perceiver of it going up or down, or being balanced, and what it experiences through all of those things. We also use the example of being at a crossroads. One trail leads up the mountain, the other one leads off to the side of the mountain. And you focus on the two roads and what they mean. If I go up the mountain, it's going to require more effort. I'm going to have to climb. It's going to get colder. The vegetation is going to become sparser. If I go around the mountain, the vegetation will most likely stay at constant with the same temperature and be more flat. Which should I choose, good or bad? Let me see what I feel about that. Let me see how I think about my physical body about that. Let me see what I'm in the mood for. Let me see what pulls me about which way I'm supposed to go. What is missed is who is the being standing in the middle of those two roads perceiving all of that, observing it. The consciousness is projected up the mountain or off the side of the mountain, and filling in the details of what experience will be received by both by planning and organizing what they intend to do. But where consciousness is not kept, who's that being in the middle of both roads observing all of this? Who is that?
That's the seed of what they say, I guess, in Buddhism or a lot of Eastern, Western teachings, the whole seed of consciousness.
Correct. The seat of consciousness, the seat of I am, the seat of being aware, which becomes more important than either path.
So, I like the free form of this. It's another question that I've been pondering a lot. And in my work, there's moments of just being present, like doing the morning meditations, the candle exercises. That it's like sometimes it's I'm in there, I feel it, I'm focused on the breath, things seem to flow, and then other times all over the place, but I come back and realize, oh, I am all over the place. The whole I am, the whole presence, being in the seat of consciousness, is deceptively similar to the mental side of it all. If you get what I'm saying, there's the feeling of like that space between the breath, and then the mental stuff comes in. Oh, I'm being present. Oh, I'm aware. Oh, here's the breath. Oh, it seems like from my experience those get confounded. Is there a sign, like what differentiates that I am from that mental part?
Observation. Your perceptions on that are off. And the reason why is because you still relate to those thoughts and feelings as you. Now, let us use your example. So we were in the moment following your breath.
Let me clarify real quickly.
Please.
I think I was in the moment, and that's my concern. How is it that am I in the moment, or am I just thinking I'm in the moment?
You will know you're in the moment when you are experiencing what is. The simplicity of this room. The energy within it. The trees outside. The feeling of the air moving across the room. No words. Nothing that you have to do, should do. No planning. You're just experiencing it. And along comes the brain. You're experiencing the moment. Thought. And the focus goes back on presence. You're not trying to stop the thought. You're stopping your attachment to the thought. The thought is fine where it is. Now let us use this in the example we already gave you, so that we can make this clearer. So there you stand at the crossroad between the two paths. You can go up the mountain, or you can go down the mountain, or side of the mountain. Our apologies.
Mm-hmm.
And you're standing there in presence. If you go up the mountain, you're going to have to climb harder. Thought. Presence. Experiencing the path where you are on the path right now. But the side path feels better, you should go that way. Thought. Presence. Each of those directions was leading your awareness off of where you were and into the imaginary steps down those paths. For all you know, the side path goes 100 feet and falls into a chasm. It doesn't lead anywhere. But that's not what you were imagining. And so your consciousness was creating a path that you were not actually physically on. The same goes for up the path. Seeing how it turns, twists, and goes up, less vegetation, colder, imaginary. Now, you may have accurately described it if you decide to go up the path. That still doesn't make it real, because those are based on logical calculations. from previous experiences, it doesn't make you present. And so the point of that focus is that you will continue to have thoughts and emotions. You're not looking to stop them. You're looking to break your attachment and obsession on them. Imagine the path up the mountain and the side of the mountain, and you standing where you are as two little kids. And in this, parents will be able to relate. And the two little kids are saying, but what about? But what about? But what about? But what about this? But what about that? But what about this? That's what that is. It's trying to grab your attention. And the thing of it is, again, get rid of the victimization. It's your obsession upon them as something real. That's the issue.
This is really... I gotta sit with this.
We'll bring this into another example, one that you watched from a TV show. WandaVision.
Mm-hmm.
It began over her grief of losing her mate. And so in her grief, she recreated him and then interacted with him. In the meantime, the entire time, she knew it wasn't real. Because anytime someone came in to attempt to tell her that and ask her to stop, she pushed them away, ejected them from the experience. Because she so desperately, which was the point of her grief, wanted it to be real. It was an obsession. The fact that she kept her attention upon it is what continued to keep it in existence.
And forcing everyone in all the situations around her to fit with that desire, that obsession.
Correct. All the while knowing it was wrong, all the while knowing it wasn't real.
But acting as though she weren't aware.
Correct. And then came the creation of the two kids. And the obsession extended in an even more deadly way. Something she could not truly lose. But in the end, she had to lose it all. Because in the end, it wasn't real. So all the pain of that, all the emotions of that, all the angst, all the struggle, all the sacrifice, things your planet seems to generally value to give meaning to life, even that wasn't real. Because it was over something that didn't actually exist. And when she finally came to acceptance with that and dealt with her grief, she could finally let it go. And what she was left with was acceptance of the original pain that caused it. And in the end, it helped define her as a being. She was no longer the same person that she was before that. She never could be again. There is no going back for her.
Is that what's meant by you can't unsee what you've seen?
Correct. It would just be another delusion.
Mm-hmm.
And she
Only
learned
this time it would eat at you.
the valuable lesson of why one should never delude themselves.
So taking all this back, give me a minute. Taking this back to the question why the body, we obsess at looking through the keyhole so much, and the same way we project ourselves in the future or base things off of past experiences when we're deciding which hiking path to take at the crossroads, as opposed to being in the moment.
Well, now comes the explanation of understanding the moment and its purpose. Understand from the perspective. Do you know about an amusement park?
Yeah.
So logically then, and you've read this example from the book, if we take you to the gates of an amusement park
I remember this.
and explained all the rides to you,
Mm-hmm.
the thrills, the twists, the turns, the imagery, you would successfully know about that amusement park.
Mm-hmm.
So you don't actually need a ticket to go in and experience it, do you?
It's similar to that Star Trek episode we saw last where there was that girl taken from the planet in isolation where she knew everything about everything, but she's never tasted chocolate. She knew about it. She's never experienced love or affection or socialization, but she knew about it. She read about it. And wow, this is powerful. And what happened when she was actually on the Enterprise and tasted the chocolate mousse and went to the bar and sat and talked and interacted with people? She was like we would say, a kid in a candy store, completely fascinated. You can see her beam and living and just really taking it all in. So just like the amusement park, I can read all about it, but there's nothing like getting on the roller coaster. There's nothing like tasting the funnel cakes.
Correct. It's the experience that you're after. That's what drives you. That's what motivates you. It's also what causes your greatest pain. And we'll go back to the example we gave previously. I want this degree and I want to become fill in the blank. Was the motivation to actually experience that, or was the motivation to actually do that to experience acceptance from others for it?
Say that one more time.
So I want this degree, and with it, I'm going to fill in the blank for whatever title you hold appropriately.
Because everything will be okay once I get that degree.
Correct. Were you doing the degree in the process to experience being that title? Or were you doing that degree for the experience of people's approval for having that title?
You want to go deeper? Getting that degree so that I can feel okay, because I believe without it, I'm not okay.
Correct. And this is where we constantly tie into the fact of illusion. You create an imaginary future self that's going to be okay. And then you chase it to catch up with it, to be okay. And when you get there, the illusion of that self fades and you realize, I'm still not okay. But then you say, I will be if I just do this. And you cast a new imaginary self into the future and run after it. And this is no different than the example of having to go down a trail. It's an imaginary journey.
It's funny. It makes me think of finances here. This is beautiful. Hold on. Self to be okay. It's funny. It's like starting off my career at begging for $13 an hour. Well, if I had 18, I'd be okay. I got 18, still barely making ends meet, still struggling, miserable. And then I get salaried finally, making a lot more than I ever had. It's funny how I was still struggling making ends meet, but I got out of debt. I got out of collections, and then I got a job that paid even more, and more came in, but I still had that and built up a savings and was able to pay off the car and debts and stuff. But then there's that sense of, I'm not okay, I need more. I get a promotion, even more money, and I'm still financially not okay. It's that constant. I look back when I was 25, I got that $13 an hour job, and I'm making way more, and I'm still in that same spot of not financially being okay.
And the trick about abundance is being okay. It's about being okay. It's about being in the moment and feeling financially abundant. You can pour whatever amount of money into that bucket, but if it has holes at the bottom, it leaks out onto the ground. And you have to do more to fill it, and do more, and do more. And if it starts to get filled, then you poke some more holes at the bottom to keep it to a comfortable level.
Comfortable or just familiar level?
Both are the same thing.
Oh.
Understand, when you say comfortable in this world, you mean familiar. Our home is comfortable because the couch is always where the couch is supposed to be. The TV is always where it is supposed to be. The remotes are left on where they're supposed to be. How irritated does your husband get when the remotes are not where they're supposed to be?
Woof.
Comfort means repetition. Because it brings a sense of normalcy.
Ah, yeah. Yeah. And then going back to work and seeing it in other people, I think work's a good example because everyone can relate to it. How you're stuck in a shitty position, overworked, not appreciated, blah, 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 all that, in a very shitty position. Yet there's these opportunities screaming at you. Come here. Come here. Screaming at you. Get out of this shit situation. I can't. I'm not good enough. No. What if I this? What if I mess up? I can't right now. I have to finish this. I can't abandon my team. And you make these excuses to stay in that shitty position and be overworked and overstressed.
And you'll find that often attached to that are minds that are obsessed with being perceived as okay. I can't take that chance because I'll mess it up. What's wrong with making a mistake? That it's that threatening that you won't accept change. How many people have you seen where the hurricane is coming, there's a 20-foot wall of water that's going to drag onto shore. No, we're staying.
Not leaving this house, not abandoning, yep.
Okay, it's going to be underwater. No, we'll be okay. Does that seem sane?
Oh, absolutely not.
But it is in your world.
And I'll let you finish the thoughts. If that's appropriate to say to you.
It is in this world.
Mm-hmm.
Insanity is sane because it's familiar. And you do value your familiarity, whether it's working for you or not.
So, I guess going back to the question,
Correct.
We come into these physical bodies, fill in the blanks, and we're sitting here suffering and wondering why. How do we go from coming into this body to just suffering and misery, and then likewise to liberation and whatever it is? What's the and this is my very linear thinking. What's the point of coming in here in this physical body to experience all that, and then maybe get liberated or die, come back again until we remember? What's the point? What's the point of the obsession with the keyhole?
And here's the point. We've established so far that the keyhole works two ways, correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. Let's put that over here.
Okay.
We've established that nothing will satisfy you but experience. Is that a fair assumption?
Yeah.
Let's take that and put it here. And so now we will have you answer your own question. On one end of the occasion, we have a keyhole that peers both ways, plus nothing but experience will satisfy you, equals what are you here to experience? You've already said experience of all of these things from the human level did not get you going.
Mm-hmm.
So obviously, that's not the answer. So we have a keyhole that flows both ways. Plus, experience is the only thing that satisfies you, equals
Manifesting to experience, getting a ticket into the amusement park.
just work with the equation in front of you. A keyhole that you can peer both ways.
Mm-hmm.
Plus, nothing but experience satisfies you. A plus means you're adding those two things singularly together. Equals. Don't overthink it.
I know. I'm trying to get out of here.
Just look at it logically.
Believing you get experience through looking at the keyhole. Your experience is looking through the keyhole.
What's on the other side of the keyhole?
I'll be bullshitting you if I give you an answer.
But we said it. And this is where it comes down to the separation of belief. Your higher self. Casting off pieces of itself for experience. Like you do when you create a work self, a social self, an old friend self, a new friend self, a home self, and a sexy self. None of those are the same. In mannerisms, in speech, in thoughts, in emotions, in experience, none of those are the same. But yet, they're the same being that sits before us. But they're all different keyholes you peer into when you're in that experience. And as we've said, we create like what created us. And so the higher self creates parts of itself for experience, all connected, all part of the same whole, but all individual personalities with their own unique frequency of perception. Now, if what's on the other side of the keyhole is your higher self looking at you, and nothing you experienced while you've had your back towards that keyhole has satisfied you, from balls to bone.
You turn back and see the higher self.
Correct.
Oh, give me a moment for this. So, with that, I want to go back to but it relates to this. All right, continue.
So, we have now established what the equation means. A keyhole that sees both ways, plus experience is the only thing that satisfies you, equals you peering back through that peephole, the keyhole, to see the higher self. And here's evidence to back up that equation. We've talked about pure moments where you've experienced just pure moment of bliss of simply being, no thoughts and emotions, no planning, no sense of time, even periods of no sense of body. Were you satisfied?
Mm-hmm.
Were you complete?
Mm-hmm.
Did you truly experience being alive?
Yeah, and I remember that I am and have always been and will always be okay.
So you've answered your own question. Why do you have that body? Understand the unique perspective that this gives. So you have a part of yourself that's a different, unique frequency that doesn't know the entirety of what you are.
Mm-hmm.
It knows its limited perspective. It is capable of so much more. It is so much more. But it doesn't know it. It thinks it and feels it. Or it doesn't think. It doesn't feel that it is. But suddenly, it becomes aware of the keyhole. And suddenly, it realizes its importance. And suddenly, it surrenders and stares back and has the experience of perceiving that grace for the first time and recognizing I am. What I thought was it is actually me. What I thought was me is actually it. And as we said in the book, it's the moment that the two frequencies vibrate at such a similar rate that the door phases and ceases to exist. And the two become one. They become consciously connected. That does not mean you lose your individuality, free will, or personality. You retain all of this, but you become aware of everything else.
So there's not that veil between. That's what's meant by seeing the whole universe out there available to us. Just turn around. There's no door there. And you realize, oh, I'm not stuck in this room. There's a whole world out there.
Correct. Now, bringing it home to answer your question. What is the unique perspective that happens and is exchanged in an applicable moment? On your side, or your perceived side, before the joining, you get to experience that grace. Are you with us so far?
Mm-hmm. You're talking about that moment, just that moment before aha.
And you experience it. What are you experiencing? The knowing. It gives you knowing. You give it experience. What is that experience? What it is. What can it not do? Experience physically. From your unique frequency of perception, which means you don't see, in that sense, all of it. You see it from your unique frequency of perception, aspects about yourself that you would have never been aware of. which is no more esoteric than your friend at coffee bringing up a point about your life that they perceive about you that you would have never seen yourself, but because it was coming from their unique angle, it means so much. And your heart opens up and you sing and you know it to be true, and every hair on your body is on end.
Yeah.
And why? Because you just experienced yourself in the exchange. It's not esoteric. It's not high-end yoga. And it is not beyond your grasp. It is actually quite simple. In truth for this world, too simple. Because you don't have to earn it. You don't have to suffer for it. You don't have to cleanse for it. And you don't have to be worthy of it. And based on those conditions alone, you don't know how to process it.
Based on those conditions, we put conditions on it, hence we can't embrace it.
Did you get your raise this year? Were you found worthy?
Yeah.
And you say it with a smile.
Why I smile is because it shattered.
Because you had to earn it. You had to be found worthy of it. And you smiled because you were. What if you weren't? It's all based on conditions.
Because my initial reaction is, oh, I fooled them enough to give me a raise, and I felt like utter shit. And then I realized after talking to my husband, no, I did this.
All still based on conditions.
Mm-hmm. If this, then the raise.
Our son has a very wise saying. He says, if you want to understand human nature and how to attract and manipulate them, never do this and offer it to the person. Because when you offer a hand with something in it, extending it to the person, the first reaction from the person is to be wary. Because nothing is offered for free that's worthwhile. It's a trap. If you want to attract people's attention and get them to sign on, do this instead. Because when you do that, people lean in. They want to see, they want to know. Because you have something hidden there, and that makes it worthwhile. Understand the language of the higher self. Free will. Take it, it's yours. If only. If only. It is the fundamental lesson we always come to teach. Always repeat. Always put it in different perspectives. If only you understood your worth. Not earned. Not sought after. Not suffered for. Not struggled for. But simply accepted the gift that God already created and gave. That nothing can tarnish, nothing can take away. It is.
And it's make it about me. I've not understood my worth because I hadn't worked hard enough for it. I hadn't gotten the proper degrees, even though I got it. I haven't put in the extra effort. I haven't done, so I don't have that worth. Those degrees, those achievements, those whatever were what I understood to be gaining worth. It was all conditions. It was conditional worth, but that's not worth.
Correct. And your life, every aspect is built upon this. Always creating an illusionary future self to catch up with. So when you get there, you could spend time with yourself. When you get there, you can have financial abundance. When you get there, you can have the appropriate social situation. When you get there, you can have the appropriate physical location. Onward and onward and onward. Always chasing yourself into the future, which is an illusion.
I really enjoy our conversations. I'm feeling my energy kind of go down. I do want to say I really enjoy our conversations because to me, that question that I ask, why the body and why forget, it's not that I didn't receive the answer that satisfies my curiosity, but I received a depth of information that fleshes out the question, if that makes sense. And it's just so, I love it. I love it because now it's not that the question was answered to my liking per se, but it was flesh it out to understand the question even more.
And it brings up an important aspect, one that we wanted to touch on anyway, and you've opened the door, so allow us to stick a foot through. Which is understanding when you come to work with an energy like ours. A question will be asked that I want to understand. Bring it down to my level and put it in terms that I can relate to. If we did such a thing, we would be talking the same nonsense that you do. That is not why we came. That is not why we come. And that is not what we do. Understand what happens when you rub the lamp before you release the genie. We are always going to put it in a perspective that is beyond your reach. Just beyond your reach. You're going to have to work for it. You're going to have to struggle. How many times have you heard your husband speak on channeling? Do
Not
we
enough.
harmonize to his exact frequency where he is in this group mind? Or do we create a room that he has to raise his vibration to reach a happy medium for communication?
It's both ways is what he's talked about.
So is everything else in life. If we harmonized and put it in the terms that you said, we would be simply sitting across from you agreeing with you. But if it works so well, why the question?
It's like that jumping, when I was studying physiology, there's that test where you try to jump and reach, and every time someone jumped and reached further, they set the bar higher. Miraculously, if you try hard enough, you can actually reach it.
Well, it goes a little bit more than that because we're not putting a piece of cheese on a stick and telling you to jump. Understand the point of it. It's a matter of perceptions. So you are on a path, and we are higher on the path than you. And you're calling for us for help. And by higher, we don't mean more evolved, better, or anything else like that. We're talking about an actual physical mountain path. No levels of sense of being or awareness. You are the same awareness we are. The only difference between us is your lack of perceptions in this matter. You would be able to be doing the work with experience that we are doing if you would perceive yourself clearly. Because everything we are, God has already created in you. And when your awareness returns, you will know this. Uncommon sense becomes common sense. And common sense becomes uncommon sense. And the transfer begins. But our point, we're on the mountain path, and you can't see, and there's a blockage in your way. And so you call out to us from higher on the path to say, in perception to say, hey, how do I get around this? And we can see the backside of the blockage. We can see all of it from our perspective, a much wider angle. And so we tell you, well, you need to go down off the path and go around it. And you'll see that when you go about 20 feet down the path, you're going to come to another one. There's a goat trail that's going to lead up around, and you'll be able to climb back up from there. And then you tell us, I don't see that. I need you to explain it to me from what I see in front of me. Okay, we see you blocked.
I love that analogy.
And so you'll always have a situation where we will put it just out of reach because we're describing what you can't perceive yet. And there's no way in answering the question without laying down a little more track to trail. And it is up to you to have the faith in our words to actually go 20 feet down to find the goat path. Or stay with what's familiar. And this is where we will end the lesson. But before we do, we have one more message for the channel. In this, we're going to start outlining his purpose. It is something he has asked about over and over and over again. What is the point of these channeling sessions? What is the point of this gift? What is the point of the ability? What is the point of having the Reiki? What is this leading to? Because as of yet, there's been no response. He is still at a period of things coming together, which is why, as you discovered, it is not time to release the house. This location suits you for now. There will be a point in time when it doesn't. The energy will grow to such an extent that it'll become a natural thing of trailing the old energy to the new energy seamlessly. And the both of you will land where you belong. On the matter of Reiki, he is to continue to teach the classes in the extended lessons and adding a new exercise to his routine. He is to meditate in the Reiki energy and focusing it more and more, sharper and sharper, making it present, making it burn, and bringing it through. It is not for the purpose of healing the planet or someone. The point of the purpose is the point of the purpose. To have the energy present. This will have a twofold effect. The first effect is that as he is doused with the higher energy, it will naturally have an effect on anything denser. You don't have to direct it. You don't have to be aware of it. It will make itself aware to you. And so things that need to shift will naturally shift and occur with him to open up energy pathways to bring that through to a greater degree. The second effect is that when such energy becomes available, energetically, those who need healing see the light. They see that light and they know what it is. Whether the conscious entity does or not is of no requirement. The being within will recognize the source for what it is. And coincidences will happen. Word of mouth will happen. And they will come. Because it is available. So to be clear, he is not to direct it for that purpose. The purpose is the purpose. He is directed for it to be present. And for him, within that present moment, with it. So that the twofold change can occur. One within, one without. That is his Reiki direction. Onto the channeling direction. It is a good idea for him to do the videos, not therapy, but video on the changes he is going through. Because, as we've explained to him, there are those who will be attracted to it to listen. He has a certain clarity with being able to channel and its purpose. It is time to share that and be honest for people to be able to see whether it's a curiosity perspective or a study perspective of the daily life and the changes one goes through with bringing this energy through and how that manifests in one's life and what shifts and changes inside as a result. It's through time going to be a great record of watching words such as we are bringing through now and what happens physically in his life when he follows, and what happens when he doesn't. Because as you know, our son does have the habit of being stubborn. As he would say, he lets go with claw marks. And so all of this should be front facing. What he will be traveling to is what it is that he has actually desired all along. He is to finish the pathway he started. It is not necessary, but it is necessary for him to release past pain. It is time for him to finish his doctorate in some type of religious study. It is time for him to get his minister degree. This will shift and change things in his mind, because the moment that he was shunned from the church for daring to say, I don't love you anymore, I must be true to myself and follow my path. From following Woman of the Forest when she gave directive of putting the pipe down and walking away, it has caused inside of him ability to believe that that pathway was closed and no longer possible or present. So for his benefit, for himself, complete it. Because his heart sings when he ministers to people. Not in the traditional religious way. And let us face it, he is a bit of a ham. So having people in front of him that he can minister to will do good for his soul. As they say, it's in his astrological chart. It is in his nature. There is a reason why he took on those qualities this life. Stop resisting who you are and simply do it. No guilt, no shame, and let go of the past with it. Define who you are and who you choose to be and what you want to become with it, with no limitations from the past. And when he fully embraces and accepts this, he will find people that are willing to listen, not only willing, are happy to, in valuing what it is that he actually offers. Part of what he is growing to will be a school for training to channel. It's what he was originally trained in when he went to school for the ministry degree, was to be part of a church that he learned to channel and eventually become a minister to teach others to channel. Out of all of his ability and skills, including Reiki, it is what he is most gifted at. As one person said when they first watched him channel for the first time, "You've done this before. I've never seen someone have such an easy time going in and out. You are like a greased tube." He is good at it. It is time to give the gift away. It is a requirement for what is to come. It is going to be needed. In very much a similar way that the medicine man or medicine woman was there for their people when something occurred that they did not have the knowledge on how to deal with from experience. And they went in trance and met with the ancestors and gained their experience on how they dealt with the issue that has not been dealt with in the lifetime they live. That sense of connected information and being able to pull tidbits where needed is going to be essential. And so a school will be opened and he will teach people to channel. And our peace to you.
Thank you so much.